there ain't no reconciliation. There ain't no fixing Pooh Shiesty and Gucci Mane issues. Pooh Shiesty, once off the label, like again, by force, by coercion, or Gucci Mane could just do it an easy way. But Gucci is thinking he could reconcile. Pooh Shiesty is at a point where he can't reconcile, according to Hernandez.
Gucci Mane sent his best gunman to retrieve his stolen property in blood, putting Pooh Shiesty in jeopardy. One of the messiest fallouts in hip-hop began as a celebration of homecoming. Now, Gucci Mane will stop at nothing to regain his respect. Let's examine how things went wrong and why people are claiming that this isn't the Gucci Mane we knew in the past. Rapper Pooh Shiesty is from Memphis, Tennessee, and gained notoriety for his hit song Back in Blood, which featured Lil Durk. This young athlete, born Luntrell Donnell Williams Jr., grew up in Memphis trenches, where you can either get money or God. Pooh Shiesty had to negotiate a world where disrespect might cost you your life, and loyalty meant everything while growing up in South Memphis. Pooh Shiesty was taught early on that respect isn't granted because his family had strong ties to the streets. It's merited. Memphis was going through a lot when he was growing up, with young shorties trying to establish themselves and rival sets fighting. Big Scar, Pooh Shiesty's cousin, was also involved. The two of them were close like brothers and constantly watched out for one another in those perilous streets. Compared to other cities, Memphis had a distinct scene. It was very serious, unvarnished, and raw. Pooh Shiesty took all that energy and put it into his music, but he never lost sight of his origins or the values that shaped his upbringing. This young mobster was aware that in Memphis, a broken word might have fatal repercussions. Gucci Mane, meantime, had established 1017 as one of the most prestigious labels in the South after building his empire from Atlanta. He was known for identifying undeveloped talent and transforming it into superstars. However, he was also known for being vicious when confronted. Pooh Shiesty's family was severely impacted by tragedy when he was growing up. Big Scar, his cousin who was also signed to Gucci Mane's 1017 label, died suddenly. This loss was no ordinary one. Big Scar was a member of the family. Family is also highly important in Memphis. According to Pooh Shiesty, you are expected to attend the funeral when a family member passes away. However, this is when things became quite messy. Big Scar's family claims that when they asked Gucci Mane to assist with burial costs, they received an unexpected reaction. They alleged Gucci Mane couldn't afford the burial because his wife's birthday was approaching, and he only donated $10,000 for flowers. That felt like a slap in the face to the family for a millionaire rapper. Gucci Mane was thoroughly exposed by Big Scar's followers on social media, claiming that he had blocked their calls when they sought assistance. They became heated, discussing how Big Scar should be treated better, and that Gucci Mane isn't real. Things like 10,000 ain't nothing for flowers were being spoken by his family. That was far less valuable than my sibling. Pooh Shiesty believed that Gucci Mane had disregarded his family when they most needed him, and the entire incident left him with a sour taste in his mouth because it was his blood. In Memphis culture, the entire community is expected to support one another when a member of your family passes away. It was considered blatantly insulting for Gucci Mane to pretend that he couldn't afford to give one of his own musicians a dignified funeral. Around the same time, Gucci Mane also engaged into a heated argument with Big 30 in certain blogs' comment sections, making disparaging remarks and behaving unreachable. Resentment was growing as a result of all this behavior, and Pooh Shiesty was mentally recording everything. Gucci Mane was not treating Memphis artists with the respect they deserved, and he noticed a pattern. Money wasn't the only reason for the disdain. It had to do with principle. Artists become members of your family when you sign them to your label, and you should treat them as such. Pooh Shiesty believed that Gucci Mane was treating Memphis artists like disposable commodities, and that kind of attitude was bound to catch up with him. Gucci Mane was among the first to publicly express affection for Big Scar, even though there was a lot of turmoil surrounding his burial when Pooh Shiesty returned from his jail issues. At first glance, things appeared to be cool between them. Fans assumed they were going to get some amazing collaborations from the 1017 camp when Gucci Mane posted about Pooh Shiesty's return. But in reality, Pooh Shiesty wasn't doing as well with Gucci Mane as he used to. His perspective on his relationship with 1017 had been altered by the entire Big Scar affair. After being imprisoned and reflecting about everything that had transpired, Pooh Shiesty returned home with an entirely new perspective on the music industry. You see, he had time to consider his role in the game while Pooh Shiesty was away. He became aware that he already had his own bread, his own network, and a devoted following that would follow him anywhere, making him a fortune. What could Gucci Mane actually do for him that he couldn't do for himself? He wondered. Pooh Shiesty began to view the business side of things in a different way at this moment. He considered keeping his entire percentage rather than dividing it with a label that, in his opinion, didn't honor him or his family. He'd shown that he could hit. The streets behind him were heavy, and he no longer needed somebody to grasp his hand. Unlike in the past, Pooh Shiesty did not take advantage of Gucci Mane's approach to resign or collaborate on new projects right away. Gucci Mane could instantly feel the change in his energy as he began to move differently and more strategically. Additionally, the streets were chatting, claiming that Pooh Shiesty had outgrown 1017 and was no longer in need of them. Other labels were contacting them with more respect and better offers. Given that they were both from Memphis and had a deeper understanding of the local culture, Yo Gotti's CMG was particularly intrigued. Additionally, Pooh Shiesty was informed by his people that Gucci Mane had been disparaging Memphis musicians in general and acting as like they ought to be thankful for being on 1017. Someone who came from the trenches and earned what he had didn't like that kind of cockiness. Thus, Pooh Shiesty went from being a devoted 1017 musician to doubting everything about his connection to the label in a matter of months. His ability to make his own decisions had advanced to the point where Gucci Mane's authority over the matter was in jeopardy. However, Pooh Shiesty found himself in a furious altercation with the guy who helped make him famous. Just as he was relishing his independence and strategizing his next course of action, Pooh Shiesty and Gucci Mane met in the studio to discuss business on an unexpected day. What started off as a straightforward discussion about their potential future, collaboration evolved into something far more heated and intimate. Sources close to the matter claimed that Gucci Mane was attempting to persuade Pooh Shiesty to remain with 1017, most likely by offering him better terms and more money. But Pooh Shiesty was not listening at all. Regardless of what Gucci Mane offered, he was adamant on becoming independent and would not compromise. When Gucci Mane began discussing loyalty and how he had first put Pooh Shiesty on, the discussion became heated. He most likely anticipated that Pooh Shiesty would express appreciation and conform as other musicians had done in the past. Pooh Shiesty, however, retaliated by bringing up the Big Scar incident and Gucci Mane's disdain for his family during their grieving process. At that point, the conversation quickly turned into a physical altercation. When Pooh Shiesty began discussing how Gucci Mane had softened and was disrespecting the culture that shaped him, the fight became more heated. Everyone in the room sensed that something was going to explode because of the intense tension. Although Gucci Mane's security was present, Pooh Shiesty's team, who had accompanied him to the meeting, outnumbered them. Everyone in the room was stunned by a move Pooh Shiesty and his crew made before anyone could defuse the situation. As his own security guards looked on helplessly, they robbed Gucci Mane in the studio, snatching both his pricey watch and his wedding band. There was more to this than jewelry. It is extremely personal to take a man's wedding band that represents his devotion, his respect, and his wife. You're conveying a message that goes much beyond money when you take it. You're implying that, like everyone else, this individual is subject to violation and isn't untouchable. Even Gucci Mane's security was unable to stop the robbery since it happened so quickly. Sometimes trying to escape with your life intact is the wisest course of action when you're outnumbered and caught off guard in a small area. Pooh Shiesty provided a straightforward explanation, but he never disputed what had occurred. It was inevitable for Gucci Mane. According to Pooh Shiesty, Gucci Mane's Big Scar incident was the first time he had offended his family. In the only language Gucci Mane could comprehend, this was simply leveling the playing field. In addition to having to cope with being robbed by his own artist, Gucci Mane also had to deal with the humiliation of having it happen in front of witnesses who would undoubtedly discuss it. The tale quickly went viral on social media and throughout the hip-hop culture, and the streets began to talk about it. Gucci Mane was unfortunate because this encounter revealed something that has been simmering for some time. Supporters began complaining that this was not the Gucci Mane they had seen in the past. This would have been handled quite differently by the former Gucci Mane. Without hesitation or argument, he would have slid on Pooh Shiesty right away. However, the married, rehabilitated, and business-minded Gucci Mane appeared to be doing things differently. Some questioned whether he had softened or lost his edge, because he was planning his next move rather than immediately retaliating as he used to do. The streets were rife with rumors that the former Gucci Mane would never have tolerated this. They said that same evening, the former Gucci Mane would have had shooters at Pooh Shiesty's door, prepared to conduct business the conventional way. However, people familiar with the matter claim that Gucci Mane had other plans. Social media began to circulate rumors that he had already instructed his top shooters to handle the matter, but he wanted it done properly and neatly. People close to Gucci Mane's camp claimed, shortly after the event, that he was more upset over the disrespect than the actual stolen goods. It was the height of disrespect to have someone rob you in your own studio in front of your own people. The wedding ring case was particularly intimate since it involved his wife, and pulling family members into the street business was going too far. Gucci Mane was allegedly telling people that this needed to be treated as a personal matter since Pooh Shiesty had made it such. The tale went viral on social media, with some people applauding Pooh Shiesty for defending his family and others claiming he had committed a grave error by robbing someone with Gucci Mane's money and connections. Gucci Mane's street reputation was put to the ultimate test by his reaction to being robbed. The streets still expected him to deal with disrespect the old-fashioned manner, Despite the fact that he had changed as a person and a businessman over the years, it was more than just material belongings that were lost when he lost his wedding ring and watch. Respect, reputation, and keeping his place in the game were all important. It would be a sign that Gucci Mane may be moved if he ignored this with no repercussions. And no street legend wants to set that kind of precedence. The fact that Pooh Shiesty had valid complaints against Gucci Mane added to the complexity of the matter. Pooh Shiesty's family had been deeply offended by Gucci Mane's handling of Big Scar's funeral. They also saw this as retaliation for the rudeness. On the street, however, there is a code of how to resolve business conflicts. You don't expect to get away with robbing your old boss at his own studio. Pooh Shiesty had gone too far, and now both parties were stuck in a potentially disastrous predicament. The true tragedy is that if there had been better communication from the start, the entire problem could have been prevented. None of this would have occurred if Gucci Mane had treated the Big Scar situation with greater deference and compassion. Fans, regrettably, are unlikely to discover the precise solution to this problem. Street justice, the judicial system, or even a meeting where both parties may resolve their differences could be used to resolve it. However, there's no denying that this feud has permanently altered the two Memphis Titans' relationship. Knowing that both artists stood to lose too much if this continued to worsen, certain members of the business were attempting to mediate the issue. However, it is difficult to find common ground when personal family concerns and respect are at stake. The streets are keeping an eye on how this develops. What transpires next will determine how Pooh Shiesty and Gucci Mane are viewed in the annals of hip-hop. Will Gucci Mane use business ways to deal with this? Or will he demonstrate that he still has that old energy? Both of these artists ultimately have families and legacies to safeguard. With any luck, cooler heads will win out, and this will be settled without causing any harm to anyone. But if history has taught us anything, it's that anything can happen in hip-hop when respect is at stake. This event demonstrates that there are still unbreakable rules on the streets in 2026. Additionally, combining personal complaints with business matters can have harmful results that impact all parties.